Manager. Welcome to our June Lunch and Learn. Honestly, we are just powering through this year. I can't believe that we're in June already. It's crazy. As you know, Rockhampton Regional Council is very supportive of our local people in business, and we try and support a wide variety of industries and types of businesses, and we're very excited today about speaking about social enterprise. We have a fantastic presenter for you today, Steve Williams, and he comes to us from Central Queensland University. We do a lot of collaboration with CQU, so we're very, very grateful to have you with us today. I'm not sure if you know, but CQU is very active in the social enterprise space, and so we're very excited to hear more about social enterprise in general, what the difference is between social enterprise and what we would call just regular enterprise, and I know that we're going to have an exciting workshop style presentation today. So if you're online, please stay with us. When we get to the workshop style, I'll be interacting with you directly. Excellent. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks very much for inviting me. So, this is clicker? Yeah.
Yep.
Can't see anything without my glasses. So before we start, I'd obviously like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and learn, and pay my respects to our elders past, present and future. I'm from Mienjan, from Brisbane, and I live on the lands of the Turrbal and Yagara people. So today's Lunch and Learn is really about exploring social enterprise. So actually, before we even get into what we're going to do today, who reckons they could nail a description of social enterprise or a definition? Who knows what social enterprise is? It's a bit difficult thing to ask first up, but does anybody? I know that Jeff does at the back, so I'm going to really put Jeff in it and see if you can explain what a social enterprise is.
It's an organisation that's structured around social outcome, an outcome for your community, and the structure of it is less important than the purpose that you are attempting to achieve together. Usually it's collaborative as well.
And it has a business model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about social innovation, social enterprise, unpacking what it is. We will talk about some definitions, boring as they are, but they're kind of needed. Going to talk about some case studies, what's happening in Queensland, because there's some really, really exciting developments in Queensland that have just been announced by Minister Di Farmer. And we'll talk about some key resources, and we'll do a little activity at the end as well. So I'm from the Office of Social Innovation, and you might think, well, what has social innovation got to do with social enterprise, except there's social in the term? Well, here's where we're going to try and link it together. So CQUni defines social innovation as engaging with our communities to address entrenched social issues. What I love about this is it's an action, it's engaging, but it's also a philosophy. There's some intellectual rigour behind the process of social innovation. We don't just go out there and start being social. We actually work out some processes to enable great outcomes for people, hopefully, with people, not for people. And here's another definition of social enterprise. So, social innovation, rather, it's about new ideas that work to address pressing unmet needs. Innovations that are both social in their ends and in their means. So it's no good trying to do something and do good for people or with people if the way that you're doing it is causing harm too. For example, the terrible plastic water bottle that I'm drinking from, which thankfully Thank You Water is stopping doing. That's a really great example of where you might be doing harm at the same time as doing good if you're producing plastic bottles of water to create what you might perceive of as a good outcome. So this open book of social innovation says that innovations are new and that they simultaneously meet social needs and create new social relationships or collaborations. And this for us is really vital. It's about the relationship. Social innovation is relational in itself. How do we work with other people? How do we really collaborate with people to achieve good outcomes? And why are we doing this? Well, we know that the world is facing some really complex challenges, no more than we've seen in 2020. There's 4 different things that we can do when we are faced with complex challenges. We can explore new or novel ways of doing things. We can improve what we're doing already. We can change nothing. We can just keep going, keep drinking plastic bottles of water. Or we can actively do harm. Actually, that is probably doing more harm, drinking plastic bottles of water. But social innovation sits in between these first 2. So it's exploring novel or new ways, or it's improving what we're doing, specifically when we're thinking about social problems or environmental problems that we want to address. And we recognise that we can't fix these problems alone, and that is why the university loves, in whichever town or city it's in, loves working with the communities where the campuses are placed. But why is it important to us as a university? Well, again, we know that these ongoing challenges require innovative solutions. And again, it's about people, and it's about doing something new or better. And together, we want to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So who here knows about the UN SDGs, or has at least heard of them? Has anybody not heard of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? So it'd be really worthwhile having a look at the United Nations website and checking out these Sustainable Development Goals, which countries around the world, leaders around the world, have signed up to help end poverty, end hunger, provide quality education. And these goals have come from the United Nations, but they've cascaded down through national and state and local governments and into organisations such as CQUni, or even, lots of the big builders are trying to address the Sustainable Development Goals in their work. They provide a fantastic framework. And of course, as a uni, we want to have graduates who can tackle these problems when they come out of university, and we want them to develop a change-maker mindset. We've also been really invested in looking at the top 10 skills needed for the future of work. So everybody knows that work is drastically changing all of the time. And it can be quite a scary thought to think, where are the vocational education roles of the future going to be? And we know that more and more businesses are looking for these top 10 skills. So this is a study done by Bernard Marr in Forbes, and he looked at the top 10 skills and named them as things like creativity, leadership skills, technology skills, the ability to embrace change. Now, I hope that pop-up will go in a minute, we mapped these against the changemaker attributes for social innovation and social impact, and you can see that they map across really, really well. And the great thing is about the Smart Hub is that we know that people with entrepreneurial mindsets who are trying to address problems using enterprising means, often they just have all of this. This is what they come with, because we're problem solvers by nature. We want to solve problems, entrepreneurs generally, and by congregating in places like the Smart Hub and coming to Lunch and Learns and doing all of the other amazing education that Elise puts on here, this is what we're learning. So not only are we building businesses, but we're creating this change-making community in Rockhampton. So, as I said earlier, I work at the Office of Social Innovation, and we particularly use these frameworks to work with people when we're working in social innovation. And these frameworks are known as a design thinking process or human-centred design. The difference between a design thinking process and human-centred design is just that in human-centred design, we place people right at the centre of the decision-making process. For me, I come from a community development background. For me, it's just community development. It's working with people to understand the problems that they're facing and then working with them to help develop solutions. And we also use this slide quite a lot because this really shows that when we're working with people and we're using social innovation, and it's going to lead into social enterprise, don't worry, that we need to use this, it's called convergent and divergent thinking process. So we go really, really wide. We really, really try and understand problems at this end of the spectrum in the inspiration stage before we move into ideation. So if we are trying to address a problem, whether it's using a business lens in social enterprise or just as a group of community people coming together looking at how to solve a problem, we really want to understand the problem before we move into a solution, because we've all seen where people have rushed in and tried to create solutions too quickly, and they've kind of got it wrong. And Einstein said something like, probably going to murder this quote, but if he had an hour to figure out a solution to a problem, he'd spend 55 minutes looking at the problem. Is that?
Yeah, that's close.
Close enough. So, how do we link that? So all of that stuff about social innovation and thinking widely about problems with social enterprise. Well, quite simply, a social enterprise is a business operating for a social purpose. So, I'm sorry, Jeff, it's a bit of a stitch up because I knew that when people try and explain what a social enterprise is, often we kind of get tied up in knots about, the exact definition. Well, you know what? I reckon this is the closest and purest definition that we can get. It's just a business that operates for a social purpose. We can forget about have to be careful what I say. I'm going to say that I'm personally profit agnostic in social enterprise. So for me, it doesn't matter if a social enterprise creates a profit or works within a non-profit structure. As long as the business operates for the social purpose of creating change in some way, then for me it's a social enterprise. And I say for me because this is just a quick snapshot of my career. So I've been working in the space since '99. So in it's a long time. I know, you're probably all thinking, but how did you start work when you were 10? It's unbelievable. Well, I was a bit older than 10. But I started work on this, this is probably actually my second or third job, but I started work on this estate in the UK, a big public housing estate. And I was the community development worker. And this is where my kind of passion of working with people rather than for people came from, because I really saw the power of actually working with people, deeply understanding the problems they face, rather than just going and giving a band-aid solution via a charity construct. Not that there's anything wrong with charities, but in this case, for me, it's about empowerment of people. And so a group of young women came together on the estate, and they were predominantly single mums, and they had no childcare on the estate. They had no way of any other people looking after their babies unless they had friends or family that they could trust. And often they didn't. So they came together and they formed a very small childcare centre at the bottom of a church, and the church gave them the room, essentially about this big, for free. And they went off and they got themselves qualified as childcare workers and started their own business, which is like, it still gives me goosebumps 22 years later to think that that happened. And that enabled them to do things like go to healthcare appointments, go to job interviews, even get a job. Amazing. So that really kind of sparked my interest in social enterprise, but it didn't even have a name then. People didn't even call it so. Well, back then on that estate, they didn't even name it as social enterprise. Fast forward a couple of years and I emigrated to Australia, and I went to work in Logan, south of Brisbane, and I worked there as a homelessness case manager, and they had this amazing small social enterprise where they had a disability service, and they employed the young people from the disability service to mow gardens of the flats and houses that they were letting out to people through their housing service, and they also formed a car washing service for their fleet of cars at the organisation. A few years after that, I went to work at a community centre, again as a community development worker, but here they had what they called a micro-enterprise, and that was a group of people coming together to provide cleaning services and some catering services. And because we ran it along consensus decision-making frameworks, every single business decision was made around the kitchen table by the people who were involved in the business. And it was a terrible way to run a business, but it was a fantastic way for self-development for people. And I look back at it now and I can't believe that we did things like we catered for a wedding and nobody had catering experience. And it was quite insane. But it was very enjoyable. And as I say, it wasn't a great business model by any means, but it was really great in self-development for people. After that, I decided I needed a few years out of social work, community work, and I'm actually a painter. So before this, I was a painter by trade, and I started a painting business in Brisbane, and then I opened up this the shop, which was Australia's first shop to sell exclusively non-toxic paints, environmentally friendly paints. It's my little boy, who's now 21, so he's a bit bigger than that now. And I ran that for a few years, kind of got bored of that. Actually, I lost loads of money, to be honest. And then I thought, God, I need to find another job because this is driving me insane and I want to go back into community work. And I went back. This organisation had really grown the micro-enterprise seed to begin to start to have some procurement contracts. So I had a $50,000 contract to mow some parks. So I went to be the manager there. They supported me to start with some friends, the Queensland Social Enterprise Council, which was Australia's first peak body for social enterprise, which was really around community practitioners and social workers coming together and saying, you know what, we're the people who are actually doing the work, right? We don't need intermediaries coming into the space and acting as the voice of the sector to government. So we said, we're going to take some of that control back and start our own peak body. And now every state's got a peak body, so it's quite amazing. We're quite happy about that. 2014, I got drafted in for an organisation I was working with to run a cafe and garden centre, which crashed terribly. And we had a loan from one of the social enterprise loan firms, CIFA, and yeah, it didn't do very good. But you know what? You learn from your failures, don't you? So I call it flirning. Well, actually, Jane Owen calls it flirning. I stole that from her. In 2017, myself and a couple of friends developed a 360 video business that was designed specifically to put 360 technology into the hands of refugees and migrants to help them, to welcome them to Australia and to provide inclusion through education using 360 video. And we ran that for a couple of years before the three of us went separate ways because our lives just changed. But otherwise, that would have been a really successful social enterprise. And during this time, I went to work for a big non-profit called Maris 180, and I was their innovation manager for Queensland. And they had a social enterprise that was specifically designed in Western Sydney to create employment for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander young people living in Western Sydney as painters and decorators. And that business was failing. It was run very much so along, really it was a large charity that was trying to run a social enterprise and didn't know how to run a social enterprise, with all respects to the wonderful organisation that it was. And there were quite a few issues with it. At some point they decided, the overarching organisation decided they wanted to close the business. But I thought, well, I used to be a painter, surely I can help out. So I volunteered to run the business. So I was running the Western Sydney business, and then we brought it to Queensland as well, because we just realised actually we could scale it into Queensland. So we did that. And that lasted for a couple of years and then closed because, again, the overarching organisation, in the end, didn't want to wear the risk of having a kind of scaling painting business. And that was actually transferred to quite a large property management company under an MOU to guarantee to continue to create employment for young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Western Sydney.
I'm sorry, what's an MOU?
Memorandum of Understanding. So like a simple contract. Yeah, great question though, sorry. So that's a bit of a snapshot of my kind of career, and at the end we'll do some Q&A, so if anybody wants to pick my brains on anything, they can. So these are some of the key questions that the Queensland Social Enterprise Council, and I'm guessing most peak bodies, would ask when assessing social enterprises, when assessing businesses that apply for membership. So is the social enterprise trading a product or service? Because if you're not trading, then what are you? You're not really an enterprise, you're just social. And does the organisation exist to fulfil a social, environmental or cultural purpose? Because, again, if you don't tick that one but you tick the first one, then you're just a business. So you need to have both things. And I always think of it a bit like a seesaw, and I don't have my seesaw slide, but you know, if you draw a horizontal line and you think of a kind of triangle underneath the line, at one end you've got social and at the other end you've got pure business income or trading. If you go too much to one end of the spectrum, you become just a business, and if you go too much to the other end, you become basically just a charity, but you don't have any business income, so you can't really be a social enterprise. Now, QSEC are still asking how are profits treated by the social enterprise, and this is becoming more and more of a grey area, I think, across the world, because the reason that people are still interested in this profit structure is because government, it's driven by government, unfortunately. Sorry, government. So if you'll notice, a bit later we'll talk about some grants that have just been released, and they're all for the non-profit sector. And for me, that cuts out a huge swathe of innovative people who might not want to operate a social enterprise in a non-profit structure. People might want to make their own money, but create good while they're doing it. For me, that's a great thing. So I think that there are some problems the way that we think about profits and the way profits are treated in the sector. And you'll see that from here as well, actually. So this was taken from the Social Enterprise Manifesto, which was the first kind of stab at having a national Australian voice or a national Australian narrative around social enterprise. So the characteristics were that they're driven by these economic, cultural, environmental mission for public benefit, placing people at the centre of the business, trading profitably, reinvesting the profits in the fulfilment of their mission. Again, that's the little sticky point. And then engaging with a wide group of stakeholders in their governance and decision making, and operating with transparency. Now again, this kind of links quite clearly to this, because if you're a private business, how much transparency are you willing to give to the market about your finances? There's no black and white answer, there's no yes or no answer to this, I think, but it's a kind of interesting point to think about. And this little slide is, just really saying a similar story, that social enterprises sit across this non-profit structure and for-profit structure. But really just to remind ourselves that social enterprises, in my view, started from community development roots, and that it really was about people coming together to try and solve their own problems, but using business constructs that started the sector. And if we think about, if we go right back to the 1800s, the origins of social enterprise really come from the cooperative movement. They really come from mutualism and the notions of reciprocity, And I hope that that's what people are still taking into the sector now. Mutualism, reciprocity, and a willingness to collaborate. So this guy, Sasha Chanoff, and he says that, as an entrepreneur, you need to convince people to trust you, to fund you, to invest the time, to leave better paying jobs, to support your cause. Right, so he's talking about being a social entrepreneur. Could have put that in commas, really. You need to clearly articulate a problem and the solution. It's easier to engage supporters when you make it clear how your organisation is part of that solution. But I'm sure, Elise, you'd agree that this is the same for any entrepreneur. If you can't articulate a problem that your product's trying to solve, then you've got nothing. This says the same thing, really. So just to give a few examples of some social enterprises that I think are some of the kind of highlight social enterprises around. This is the one that I was running in North Brisbane for 5 years. So this does landscape maintenance and commercial cleaning services. Its customers are government, corporate, individuals, anybody that needs those services. And it was specifically designed to employ particularly long-term unemployed or underemployed people in a particular postcode in Brisbane, 4017. So that's the Sandgate area, if people know Brisbane, northern Brisbane. And this was the organisation that started as a micro enterprise probably in 2000, really. And we're now in 2021, so 21 years later, it's still going. And it's increased its turnover now. I just met with the CEO of the organisation a couple of weeks ago. I think it's now turning over about 700 grand a year. And it's just, you know, moving along, creating employment, doing its thing. But this is some of the impacts that we made when I was there. And I just know this because I wrote this, so that's how I know. So, and they don't have anything up to date, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would show you the up-to-date figures. But so, you know, we had gained, you know, $2 million income from services, so that's without any grants. We did have $350,000 in funding, which is an extraordinary amount of funding for a small organisation. But, you know, we were quite good at writing grants. But without this money, without that funding, I guarantee that this organisation wouldn't be there today. There is no way. So when you look at the impact that it's created just in these 5 years, let alone the subsequent 6 years since I've left, up to 2015, it created 32,500 hours of employment for people who have been long-term unemployed. Now, some of those people had been unemployed for 20 or 30 years. Right? Some of them had severe and episodic mental illnesses, and ultimately they just came to work for us for 2 or 3 hours a week. But the feedback that we got from their caseworkers and their social workers about the difference in their quality of life was off the charts. It was incredible. And this is why I'm so passionate about particularly employment-based social enterprises, because we see the difference it makes to people's lives. We paid them over $750,000 in wages. We employed 67 people, won an award, and 70% of the staff came from that marginalised background. In my view now, with hindsight, that number is far too many, and it really needs to be 50% or less of staff, because if you have quite a high percentage of people who come from marginalised backgrounds, they can be, by their nature, unproductive in terms of a business sense, which means that it's very difficult for you to compete in the market when you're competing with mainstream businesses. But, you know, just thinking about outcomes, a couple of years ago I met a guy called Yusuf who came to Australia as a Sudanese refugee, and he worked with us during this time, and I asked him, what are you doing now? And he said, oh, you know, I've got a job, and he'd been working on tunnels, building the tunnels in Brisbane, and I asked him, what about the rest of the people in your community, the other sort of 10 or 12 Sudanese people that work for us? And he literally named every single one of them as having a job. And I asked him, what difference did Seed make to them? And he said they all referenced Seed, a social enterprise, as being the catalyst for change in their lives, because we gave them the opportunity to come to work. And it might have only been half a day a week, might have been 4 days a week for some of them, but it helped them you know, engage in Australian culture and ways of working. It helped them gain experience. It helped them, you know, have a CV. It helped them develop their English language and literacy. So these are some of the reasons that I love social enterprise. Another favourite social enterprise is Food Connect. So does anybody here know of Food Connect? Yeah. So they're quite a famous social enterprise. So they were designed really because Rob is an ex-dairy farmer, and he recognised that farmers are treated very unfairly, particularly by the big corporate supermarkets. And he wanted to do something about that. So he drew a 300-kilometre ring around Brisbane and said, well, we're just going to buy from those farmers. And it's something crazy like, instead of paying them, I'm making this up, but something like 5 cents in the kilo for their potatoes, say, or whatever their products is, we're going to pay them 50 cents. So they paid them 10 times more than the big supermarkets. They're now turning over, and so they distribute the food via a box scheme, where people go and pick up their boxes from individual houses in your own neighbourhood. So Food Connect gathers all the stuff from the farmers, packages it up at the Food Connect shed. It goes out to what's called a city cousin, and then you or I would go and pick it up from our city cousins. So it's creating all these points of connection, and it's paying the farmers something like 10 times more than they would have otherwise been paid. So it's an incredible model. I think they're turning over about 3 million a year now, have heaps of employees. They formed a thing called the Food Connect Foundation. They bought their own shed, their own packing warehouse. It was the first equity crowd-funded campaign in Australia. So 300 of us in Brisbane, and actually wider, much wider than Brisbane, contributed a minimum of $500 each, and now we all own shares in the shed. So it's an incredible, incredible model. Mantua, this is my last little case study. So Mantua, they produce clothing, so basically they're seamstresses, and the Australian clothing lines go to them to make their clothes. So often it's, it's very small boutique fashion labels, and its beneficiaries are migrant women in Brisbane. So you can see that on each of the slides I've got, because this is going to be your little bit of homework in a minute, I've got a product or service, a customer, and a beneficiary. Because this is what we need to run a social enterprise: a product, a service, a customer, and a beneficiary. So what's happening in Queensland right now? Well, there are heaps of networks growing around Queensland. I haven't captured them all here. So there's groups of people coming together, just like we did to form QSEC. They're coming together. Some of them are formalising as maybe incorporated associations, I believe. Some are not. Some are just groups of people coming together, and they're forming their own small networks. Those small networks are linked unstructuredly to QSEC as the peak body. So it's like they're feeding up to QSEC everything that's happening on the ground. QSEC as the peak are then taking that to government at all levels, so state and federal, and to philanthropists, and they're feeding back what's happening on the ground. Because QSEC, obviously being in Brisbane, has the ear of government, and anybody at any time can form a network. We've got a regional champion here that I'll talk about in a minute, and feed up their needs and wants and desires via QSEC to the state government. At CQUni, we've just run a number of workshops in Cairns, Darling Downs and Central Queensland to help new social enterprises develop their ideas, so move from that inspiration phase to the ideation phase. And we spent a couple of days in each location and used very simple tools with people, tools that I know would be used here, like the business model canvas, to help people design their own social enterprises. Social Traders are another great organisation that work locally, and they are an intermediary between the buyers and the suppliers in the social enterprise space. So they really provide this very important kind of bridge between the supplier and the market. And the Social Enterprise World Forum is coming to Australia, well, to Queensland in 2022. So that's an incredible bandwagon that rolls around the world. Obviously, due to COVID, it didn't. Well, it did happen last year, but it was online. And 2022 is coming to us, thanks largely to Tom Allen. If people know Tom from Impact Boom, which at least you've been on Impact Boom. Have you been on Impact Boom? No. So Tom runs a podcast, and he runs a whole number of accelerators as well, mainly in southeast Queensland. And so this is what I was talking about earlier, the Social Enterprise Development Grants. So these were just released by Minister Farmer at the weekend. And there's a tranche of $3 million that's just been released. And the grant focuses on not-for-profit, community-led organisations who run job programs. So the language is a bit... Anyway, thanks, Minister Farmer, if you're watching. But it would be great to see, for me, I think it would be great to see some more crispy language around social enterprise in that, because ultimately that's what we're working with, is social enterprises. So that's $3 million, and it's out of this total of $8 million bucket that's being fed into the sector by the Department of Employment, Small Business and Training, which is an incredible thing. I think that Victoria has just outdone us, though, and announced something like $22 million. So, you know, we need to up our game, but that's next time. So the grants are going to come through in these 4 different packages. So this is what's happening right now. The next that will come out is some development grants. Now, this is particularly around education, and then there'll be some growth grants for organisations that are already in existence. And I'm not quite, the sector development grants actually is about education. Not quite sure about the development grants. They're releasing it in these small, well, it's not small, but in 4 stages. And Matthew Doyle, so if the people, most people would know Matthew, so he is our regional champion for QSEC, but really for the region around the network, the Central and Western Queensland region network, which actually does go all the way out, ostensibly, to the border, to the western border. But interestingly, and this is what I love about social enterprise, I've been working with a group of different people from different organisations in Emerald, and they're all like, what? Those guys, they're so coastal centric, they don't represent us, we're going to form our own thing. So they're forming their own network in Emerald, the Central Highlands network. So that's a fantastic thing, and that's what I love about this space, is people just go, you know what, we're going to do it for ourselves, we're going to represent ourselves, and we're going to create incredible changes ourselves, but in collaboration with people around us. So, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a pause for breath, and I'm going to get you to do a little activity, and then after the activity, we'll have a little Q&A. But this is a good fun activity, believe me. So it's called Half-Baked. People will probably know half-baked type games. So this is about creating a social enterprise with the contents of a bag. Now, you're going to do it in groups of 3. So basically, you've got 5 minutes. I'm going to time you. You've got 5 minutes to come up with a social enterprise, and then one of you is going to pitch that to me. And you've got 30 seconds to do the pitch. So it doesn't have to be a big, long monologue. And when you do the pitch, you're going to have to tell us what your social enterprise is, what the solution is, and how it will generate income. Okay? So your problem, you're going to create a social enterprise with the contents of this bag on water pollution. The 3 of you, you choose 3, are going to do it on homelessness. Well, maybe if it's you 3. You 3 are going to do it, you 3 are going to do it on waste. You guys are going to do it on water pollution. And you guys are going to do it on homelessness. Homelessness. So you got 5 minutes.
Sorry, for the people online,
Oh, yes.
what is their problem? I'll look after it.
Oh, okay. So, waste.
Waste, is
Yes.
there anything in there that they need? Is that anything they need remotely?
So, can you show them this? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or do you want me to?
If you could,
Where's the
I'll just
camera?
let them know that that's the camera.
Okay. Okay. How many people have we got
There's
online?
4 watching at the moment.
Okay. I'll just let you pop it in the chat first.
If you could just show it.
Okay. Is that it? Okay, so can you type it in? Tea bag, a closed peg, a pen. That's it.
Thanks for that, and I'll let you know what they respond with.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
I can just jump on the live stream as well now,
Yeah,
can't I?
I just haven't received any response.
That's all right. I mean, nobody might do it, you know.
But it's nice to give people an option, so that engagement's really helpful.
Yeah.
Nice to be there.
Yes.
That's impressive, that one. No response.
No.
I'll give them another couple of minutes, reach back out and make a response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's picking up our conversation.
It's crazy.
Has there been any chat so far? Has anybody
Yes,
engaged?
one of the users has just asked if they can get the PowerPoint if possible.
Okay.
Just they weren't able to see it very well from our camera. That's all. So if you're able to provide that.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I'll put it in a PDF. Yeah. I do have a video that I want to. Is it still picking up? Oh, hello, hello. some point, I don't, well, you'll have my email. Yeah. Doing the proposals.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's the way to him.
So do you sort of know my position here?
No.
Yes.
We've got 1 minute left. 1 minute left. You've got to tell us what your business is and your solution. Okay, let's come back to the room and get ready to pitch. It's off. Oh, okay, great, thanks. Okay, let's all come back. How did people find that? Fun? Who wants to go first? Who can pitch that? Oh, Jeff. So let's hear the problem. Tell us the solution, how it generates income, and how to include the items in the bag in that. Please. Oh, come on.
We're all in this together. David's joining us too, I see. Is it? No. Okay. We're trying. Okay, do you want to show off the things from the bag, guys?
You could just hold the microphone.
Okay.
I can hear you online.
All right. I've got the microphone.
So we had a
Tea bag.
decaf tea bag, a paddle pop stick, and a stress ball, and also business card.
So we talked about, we're trying to address homelessness, and the tea bag led to having a cup of tea together, but then naturally under an enterprise banner to a business. We're aware that the library, the Rockhampton Regional Council Library cafe is empty at the moment. We're sure that there'd be some council people here who are really interested in supporting us in making a connection there so that we can get a premises that already has a coffee machine and already has some stuff already in place. The idea is to employ homeless people and to give them an opportunity to work. Also, some job readiness kind of skill development stuff, and we're sure there must be someone in the community sector. So community organisations would need to be involved to help us find the employees, but also to help those employees get ready for being in this space and working in this environment. That's our pitch.
Fantastic.
We're going to sell coffee and make money.
Yes, great, thank you. And solve homelessness and solve an empty space. Amazing. Who's next? Who wants to go next? It's just so people can hear you online.
I can yell loud enough. Well, we'll use the same method that the last group did, and we'll show off our items. So we were combating water pollution with these items. So we have caution tape, rescue Pascal lollies, a pen, and of course the business card, and the paper bag as well. We included the paper bag. So we're going to work on water pollution. We've decided to focus, being that we are a coastal area, on our oceans. We're going to work with the Sydney Water Cleanup Group, which produce filters that catch debris on the incoming tides. I'm sure you've all seen them advertised on TV. We are going to crowdfund to help pay for the manufacture of the filters. And for our business model, we're going to have membership fees, corporate sponsorship, all those sorts of things to help us make money and keep us going and pay for advertising. So we incorporate all these items as part of the rubbish that we find in our waterways. And of course we're going to use Steve to help us do that.
Very good. Who's next? Who wants to come next? Cool. Yeah, just hold it.
So we tackled homelessness. Well, we attempt to. So the first thing we thought of was a place for the homeless to have human contact, to talk, to actually sit down and feel being wanted, for one. So I thought of a coffee place or a shelter, somewhere that we can actually, talk to them, sit down, let them have a chat, let them talk around that place, but also give them the opportunity to help around in the same shelter themselves by, as before, making coffees, helping them around, or even just sitting down and talking to another person who's homeless. Now, what we were looking at thinking of doing was actually getting some sponsorship from like Coles or Woolworths for their stale bread, for their coffees and stuff that they're about to throw out so we can get them. And in that opportunity, also allow the homeless people with our connections to Coles and Woolies to have a chance at getting themselves employment and stuff like that. So we're also looking at a place that has facilities for showering, haircutting, that kind of stuff, and also looking for volunteers based on that sort of side. The other thing was also looking at trying to get them to medical facilities, so driving to places or even walking to places. So like at the free health centre and all that kind of stuff, to see if they have enough problems or enough help that they can do NDIS or pension or stuff like that. So taking them to those type of stuff.
Supporting them with like the forms and paperwork and anything that they might need, which is where the pen comes in. So because sometimes you would be struggling in that area with they can be pretty complex for everyone to fill out. So and the tea bag was us talking to them. So and this can just stir the tea.
And it was a cafe.
Generally more of a similar place to this, just a shed or something like that where
Just a place to go.
and go get it. Just a place to walk off the street. A couple of hours of warmth or a couple of hours of just talking to someone. Doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Right, thank you. Thanks very much.
Who's next? We've got two more. Thank you.
Do you want me to talk? I can talk. Okay. I'm good at talking. Lisa knows I'm good at talking.
So I can do something.
Okay, fabulous. All right, so we had a peg, a plastic peg. We had a business card too. And we had a pen. And we had achievements, which if Stephen has got more, he should hand them out because they're actually really delicious. So the problem that we had was to reduce waste. So immediately we focused on the plastic peg and the impacts that plastic has on our environment, particularly here in CQ, where they break down and aren't reusable again. So we want to stop usage of plastic products and look at the recycled steel pegs that are now out and about. The social problem that we actually want to solve is getting our vulnerable teens off the street and into employment. So we've got a manufacturing hub here out at just north. So we want to get them, if they're dropping out of school and leaving, into some sort of manufacturing. So a Cert 2 in manufacturing, and they can be making the pegs, and we make some profit by selling our pegs.
Reduce waste.
And reduce waste. Yes.
Who's next? Last, lucky last.
Hello everyone. Okay, so the problem we had was around water pollution. We had a little look at drinking water pollution, and we were particularly inspired by our little bag of goodies and this tea bag. So naturally we went to the need for a bit of a proprietary filter that we hope to be actually manufactured by locals within their communities, so particularly looking at a solution for third world countries and those who have not good access to drinking water. So for us it was around creating those job opportunities, creating a filter which was readily able to be manufactured within local communities to create jobs and obviously improve livability and health and well-being for those communities as well. Obviously for income, that's always a problem with these things. You can have the best idea, but obviously for this, when you're thinking about health of large-scale populations, it really is around a role for government, possibly in disaster relief as well, communities that have been ravaged by different disasters, and then also possibly local communities themselves. Yeah. Anything you want to add to that? No? Thank you. That was good.
Very good. Thanks very much. Thanks, everybody. Let me pop this mic back on. So, everybody gave great answers. I think a couple might have kind of missed a little bit about the business model because there was some fundraising stuff going on in there. We really want to see, I'm not going to say the big C word, we really want to see some, I mean capitalism then, if people... I just suddenly wanted... but we do want people to drive income. I should say the university is capitalist agnostic too. Not like the old days when it was full of lefty rat bags. It's changed a bit. But thank you very much. I just wanted to... Now, I wouldn't be doing a very good entrepreneurial job if I didn't come to sell you something either. So I came to talk to you about social enterprise, but we do have... I'm going to show you a 2-minute video. It's literally 2 minutes. We've just developed this amazing online social enterprise course called iActivate. We've got several people going across it through all over Australia, and we've got some little groups of people going and individuals going through it. We're getting amazing feedback. It's all based on, or most of it is based on Tom Allen's Impact Elevate Plus Accelerator. It's just that we've put it online, and the reason that we did this is because we've been going around regional Queensland for the last couple of years teaching social enterprise and doing some of these type of workshops, but longer day or 2-day workshops, and then we leave and people say, well, what's next? Like, you've left, you just fly in, fly out. So we developed an online course for people to go through, and we think it's really good. So hopefully it's going to play as it loads. In Australia and around the world, people are changing the way they do business, and business for good is changing the world.
As we face increasingly complex problems, there's never been a more important time for us to take our ideas and turn them into impact.
At CQUniversity, we believe everybody can be a change maker. And as Australia's only Ashoka U Changemaker campus, we've already helped thousands of people start their journey.
When we first started the program, it was just a team of 3 founders, and now we are a team of 5. And we provide local, ethical and high quality design and manufacturing services to Australian clothing labels by drawing on the sewing expertise of women from refugee and migrant backgrounds.
Every change maker can access an ultra flexible online course to help them take their idea and turn it into impact. This short course has been developed by CQUniversity and Impact Boom, which is the organisation I founded to help impact-led entrepreneurs connect, be inspired and
one of the great things I got out of the Impact Boom sessions that I did early this year was the finance piece. It really opened my eyes up as an ex-farmer to what's possible in the world of money and how to access that money. Yeah, I've done a few courses over the years, and it is the best course for social enterprises or for any business that wants to make an impact these days. I thoroughly recommend it.
So going through the Impact Boom program has really helped us. We just had an idea and we were working in our homes, and now we're in this fantastic space. Yeah, it's been great.
So whether you've got a social issue that you want to tackle, you're in the forward sector, or you've got a business that you want to grow, getting the right advice from the start can be an absolute game changer. So register online and we'll see you there.
Okay, so that's my little sales pitch. Now, there's a list of key resources here as well that are all freely available. And we've run out of time for Q&A, but I'm happy to stay for half an hour to an hour. So if anybody wants to stay and have a chat, then yeah, that would be lovely. And thank you for your attention. Thank you to Elise for inviting me here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming today to our Lunch and Learn. I have two quick questions. Firstly, after seeing that, is it called iActivate? Yeah, after seeing that little promo video, who would be interested in doing that course? Yep, okay, awesome. So I'll meet with Steve and we'll see what we can do and see if we can support that here at the Smart Hub. If you have to pay to do the course, would you still be interested? Okay, cool. Okay, no worries. The second thing that I just quickly want to chat to you about is one of our social enterprises who is a member at the Smart Hub is called Rural Health Connect, and they have a very exciting job opportunity at the moment. Basically, they've been successful in winning a grant from the federal government to support bushfire affected communities. Rural Health Connect is a social enterprise which is an online technology platform, and they connect people who need psychology services but are remote or need to just use technology to be able to connect with a psychologist. That is the platform. So basically you go onto the platform, you either can have a GP referral or not, and then you get billed on the platform and you're able to connect with a psychologist anywhere in Australia. So a fantastic idea. Megan Gomez is the founder. She's been going for a little while, probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 years now. So there is an opportunity for someone to act as like a rep or an ambassador for the Rural Health Connect. It's a part-time position, around 20 hours a week. It's a year contract. And if you have any interest or you know someone who might be interested in this position, please come and speak with me. Essentially, the role entails traveling, connecting with community groups, being proactive, spreading the word about the platform, connecting with GPs and other healthcare providers, and just getting people to be aware that there's this amazing resource, and especially if you're bushfire affected, that you can access free of charge. So please come and speak with me after. So I have a gift, as we always do. Here we go, Steve. Thank you so much for your time.
You. Thanks very much.
It was great to see you, and we'll see you back here in July for our next Lunch and Learn. New month in the financial year, that'll be. So enjoy your last financial year month. Enjoy. Bye.
Thanks, Elise. That was great.
Awesome. That was